DNA evidence in a high-profile sodomy trial. The opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim has been accused of having sex with a former male aide. Let's go to Veronica Pedrosa in our Asia Broadcast Centre for the latest.
Hello, Taimur. Well, what's happened is that the judge in Anwar Ibrahim's sodomy trial, Judge Datuk Mohammed Zaibuddin Mohammadiyah, ruled that 3 items that were part of the prosecution case of evidence allegedly linking Anwar Ibrahim to his young accuser were ruled inadmissible. He said that, "I find that in this case, the DNA samples on 3 items were obtained by unfair means from the accused and are to be excluded from being part of the evidence." It's going to be seen as a significant blow to the prosecution's case because the burden was on them to prove a link between Anwar and the young accuser. Those 3 items were taken without the consent, according to Anwar and his defence team, of Anwar while he was in police custody in July of 2008.
This case has been going back and forth for some time now, Veronica. Are we any closer to seeing an end?
I doubt it, because at this point, what we're hearing is that the prosecution can appeal the judge's decision. And of course, it's an enormously controversial trial, politically speaking, because as you've mentioned, Anwar is the de facto political leader of the opposition. This is the second time he's faced sodomy charges. You may remember he was charged back in 1998 and imprisoned on charges of sodomy and corruption after he was fired from being the deputy prime minister. Those charges were overturned later in 2004, and he's made an extraordinary political comeback since then in an unprecedented election sweep back in 2008.
All right, Veronica Pedrosa in Kuala Lumpur, thanks. Now, Tunisia's interim prime minister has unveiled his new cabinet, and he's announced he's disbanding the country's feared secret police. This is the 3rd caretaker government in Tunisia since the overthrow of Zine El Abidine Ben Ali in January. Nazin Moshiri has more from Tunis.
It was billed as a new beginning, but the interim Prime Minister Beji Caid Sebsi admitted the key positions in government will remain the same. The difference now, a promise that not one member of the cabinet will stand in the next election, and security will be a priority.
We wanted it to be a caretaker government, but more importantly, a government which saves the country from this predicament.
One of the first moves of this new government, the dismantling of the so-called political police, filmed here by AlJazeera. A force which harassed and spied on Tunisians for so many years. The Ministry of Interior announcement came on its Facebook page. It just shows you how times have changed in Tunisia. This once hated institution is now using the same social sites which helped in the uprising to get its own message across. It's not clear how members of this once powerful security force will now react. The Prime Minister says this is a dangerous period for the country. His challenge now to take Tunisia to the next election and deliver the democracy people here fought and died for. Nazanin Moshiri, AlJazeera, Tunis.
In Kuwait, youth groups are calling for fresh protests on Tuesday. As in previous protests, they want the Prime Minister to step down and greater freedoms nationwide. The Al Sabah family has ruled Kuwait for more than 250 years, but political parties are not allowed there. The Egyptian steel tycoon and politician Ahmed Ez will be in court for a corruption trial shortly. He's a leading member of Hosni Mubarak's NDP party, and he's alleged to have illegally made millions from cornering Egypt's steel market. Ayman Mohialdin reports.
From modest beginnings to one of Egypt's wealthiest tycoons, Ahmed Ez, now facing trial for corruption, moved up the political ladder at the same dizzying pace as he made his personal fortune. When the Egyptian economy shifted from state-controlled industries to privatized ones in the early 90s, Ez founded what would become Egypt's largest steel company. A wealthy businessman, a member of parliament, and a senior party politician, Ez came to symbolize what many Egyptians despised in the Mubarak era, the intersection of money, politics, and power. During his meteoric political and economic rise, Aiz made powerful friends, none more notable than Gamal Mubarak, the former president's youngest son. It was their close personal relationship that cast a shadow on Aiz's business dealings and led many to believe that wealth and power in Egypt went hand in a vicious cycle of favoritism, corruption, and greed. After establishing himself as a loyal Mubarak and party confidant, Aiz was tasked with developing the National Democratic Party's 2010 strategy in parliamentary elections that were widely marred with fraud, violence, and intimidation. But despite the criticism, Aiz arrogantly boasted about the victory he helped mastermind that essentially saw all legitimate political opposition removed from parliament. Ahmed Aiz was one of the most hated personalities of the Mubarak regime, and as it started to crumble, he attempted to fend off the mounting criticism.
There is no partnership with anyone in anything. The truth about this industrial group is that all my companies are registered in the stock market. I have no other work except Industrial Group, which more than 90% of its activity is in steel manufacturing. So any talk about partnership or profits has no basis of truth.
It proved a futile attempt. Ahmed Aiz became the first businessman turned politician to face corruption charges. Many Egyptians are hoping he won't be the last. Ayman Muhyiddin, AlJazeera, Cairo.
Well, meanwhile, in Egypt's capital, Cairo, thousands of Coptic Christians have been carrying out protests. They're calling for an end to the discrimination that they say they face as a minority group. The protesters blocked the 6th of October bridge, chanting anti-immigration slogans on Monday. There's also anger over a dispute between a Christian and a Muslim family that took place over the weekend. That dispute led to the deaths of 2 people. Shia Muslims in Bahrain have been pushing for more rights in protests directed directly at the Sunni royal family. In the latest demonstration, around 200 Shia protesters rallied outside the US embassy, calling for Washington to stop backing the monarchy. In Yemen, the opposition coalition has been vowing to ramp up its protests against the president, Ali Abdullah Saleh. This after he rejected plans that he should step down in 2011. There have been more riots in the capital, Sana'a, but this time in the prison. Hashim Al-Bara is in Sana'a.
Violence broke out when inmates started chanting anti-government slogans, asking President Ali Abdullah Saleh to step aside. At that moment, security forces fired tear gas canisters, gunshots were heard. We were told by an inmate that many prisoners were injured. However, authorities remain tight-lipped, saying that this has nothing to do with the political situation in Yemen. However, there is security has been beefed up outside the prison, which is one of the largest incarceration facilities in Yemen. This comes against the backdrop of increased tension here in the capital and also across the country. The opposition is putting more pressure on President Ali Abdullah Saleh to stand down this year. President Saleh still maintains his position that he is willing to resign in 2013 when his term comes to an end, and that before that deadline he won't